A nombre de Elsevier agradecemos al Colegio de México, quienes son nuestros anfitriones en este taller de autores de libros. Es la primera vez que hacemos este taller para libros, normalmente hacemos para revistas, pero es la primera vez que nuestro editor senior, Scott Bentley, está aquí con nosotros. Él es especialista en la parte de economía, sobre todo, y bueno, nos complace mucho que tengan la oportunidad de estar aquí y cualquier duda, por favor, es bienvenida. Le doy la bienvenida a Scott Bentley.
Thank you very much for your kind introduction. My name is Scott Bentley, and I want to speak with you today about the Elsevier editorial strategy, how we develop content, book content with authors, and what the publication process is about. So I hope that you'll find it interesting. It has changed a lot in the last 20 years. So let me begin by talking a little bit about what we will do today and how we will move forward. The agenda today is very simple. I can begin by talking about my qualifications in this and providing an overview of Elsevier's editorial strategy. We can talk briefly about the reasons people want to write a book or contribute to an edited book, and then talk about the book publishing process, from the development of a proposal to contracting the book, the approvals and the contract itself, and then the actual writing process, and the ways that Elsevier works with our authors and editors to make sure that their books are as strong as possible and will sell to audiences around the world. We'll talk a little bit about book production and publication and marketing and sales. And finally, at the end, we can answer your questions, and hope that you have a very clear and deep understanding of how Elsevier works. Elsevier is an old company, about 130 years old. We began as a book publisher in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam. And the company's historical base is in Amsterdam, but we have corporate offices in London and editorial offices in Boston, in San Diego, and in Oxford, just north of Oxford, actually in Kidlington. We have sales offices all over the world, and we think of ourselves as an electronic publisher. So not only do we publish journals and books, but we publish what we call workflow solutions, oftentimes targeting engineers or healthcare professionals. So the company has developed a long way from simple book publishing. We have a complex strategy for following the development of science, research, not only in the ways that researchers make decisions, but also the sources of research funding and the ways that our books perform in the marketplace. So electronic books provide a lot of data for us so that we can see which chapters of a book are most popular, mostly downloaded, where the citations are, and so forth. So we bring a lot of data to book publishing and a lot of expertise. We consider you to be the content specialists, and we are the publishing specialists. And we collaborate together to make sure that our books sell to audiences worldwide and that they have long shelf lives. So they're used for many, many years and cited for many years. And I can talk a little bit more about that as we go on. Whoops. Let me speak a little bit about myself. I have a PhD in literature and theology, And before coming to Elsevier, I worked in New York City for 3 academic publishers. One was a university publisher, Columbia University Press, and 2 were privately owned publishers. I moved to San Diego in 1994 and joined Academic Press, which was part of Harcourt Brace. And Elsevier bought Harcourt Brace in 2000, and so I have worked for Elsevier for the last 15 years. I have published a variety of formats, book formats, during my time in Elsevier, as well as worked on journals. So I am currently in charge of economics and finance books worldwide at Elsevier. I have published textbooks, monographs, handbooks, and encyclopedias. And I'll talk a little bit about these formats in a few minutes. But each format has a different kind of information and targets a different kind of reader, a reader who's looking for various sorts of information. I've commissioned books on subjects as diverse as finance and economics, as well as ethics, biodiversity, nationalism, archaeology, and social measurement. So I've gone across the social sciences, and economics is a wonderful melting pot of these diverse social sciences. Elsevier, our economics incorporates psychology, statistics, and a variety of other kinds of social science tools. As I said, I'm responsible for the economics and finance book programs, and one of my largest programs is the Handbooks in Economics, which you might be familiar with. It's an ongoing reference series of books written by Nobel laureates and the most highly placed authors and contributors within economics. My philosophy, or our philosophy at Elsevier, is to collaborate with authors to publish the right selection of content in the best possible format, so that the format and the content go together. And we spend a lot of time and effort, energy, discussions with the authors and the editors to make sure that their content and our format work together. Identifying the right audience is a big part of our job. Understanding the marketplace, the other information sources that people use, their strengths and their weaknesses, and the publishing environment in general is also a big part of what we do. So we want to understand readers' needs. We want to understand the strengths and the weaknesses of competing information sources. And we want to develop projects so that we can say our book is better than the competitors for specific identifiable reasons. And ultimately, the authors and the editors use these reasons to shape their tables of contents, and our sales representatives and marketing people use these reasons to sell the books to audiences worldwide. So the competitive edge is something that we develop early on, and we try to follow it through the entire book publishing process. We have long-term goals, of course, of professional research and student benefits for our books. So as I said, we see ourselves as collaborators, and we want to make sure that our audiences are well served. We also believe that it's important that our authors and editors feel as if they are well served, because we want the best authors and the best editors to return to us and write a new book or write a new edition of a book. So it's at one level a very customer service oriented industry, And at the same time, we want to make sure that the science is improved and made available to people worldwide. I should mention that we publish about 1,000 titles every year in a variety of disciplines. We have about 200 team members in the science and technology books in San Diego, Boston, London, Cambridge, Amsterdam, Sao Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, and Beijing. So we are very interested in reaching people worldwide. We have about 25,000 book titles available on Science Direct. This is our electronic publishing platform. We have made a large investment in digitizing and making available as e-books science publications that go back to the 1870s. So a long legacy of science publishing. And with this vast archive of book titles, we hope to propel science into the 21st century. Here are some books that I have worked on personally. The top row of books are textbooks. These are upper level undergraduate and graduate level textbooks. Sometimes we talk about these books as text references. That is, they can be used in a graduate class or a graduate seminar or an upper division class, as well as finding a place on the shelf of a professional as a reference tool. So they are a hybrid, both text and reference book. The bottom row are books that are more reference-oriented. So The Principles of Project Finance has been a very successful title. We have a new book on digital currency. This is a collection of articles, chapters, written especially for this book. This is an example of a book that tries to capture a developing field. Digital currencies, Bitcoin especially is well known, and there's not a lot of research available on them. So the point of this book is to aggregate available research and provide students and professionals with a place that they can start to understand both the electronic and the financial parts of cryptocurrencies or digital currencies better. Finally, in the bottom right-hand corner, the Handbooks of Economics. This is a 2015 title on regional and urban economics. So as I said, these handbooks are written by top scholars in their fields, in their disciplines, and they are a very successful reference work that has helped economics, the field of economics, organize itself and propel itself forward, because economics is such a diverse and constantly changing field. So these books have been very successful, and I'm pleased to have worked with the authors, helped them develop their ideas, and really served as a partner with them in publishing. Who are we? Well, Elsevier takes its name from the original House of Elsevier. The Elseviers were a family, a publishing family, founded in 1580. And the company lived on for a number of generations and then was refounded in 1880. And you can find references to Elseviers, which were small books that you could put in your back pocket throughout early modern literature. So it's a very famous name. As I said, we have about 200 people working in a variety of cities around the world. We publish over 1,000 titles each year, and we have a variety of formats. Monographs, handbooks, large books that take a number of years to write, and small books, we call them fast turn volumes, that can be written and published very quickly in 5 weeks or so. So these books are especially appropriate for disciplines that change very quickly, such as physics and chemistry, some healthcare disciplines. Economics and finance is a field that requires a longer period for the literature to work its way into researchers' experiments. And so smaller books, these fast turn volumes, not so appropriate for economics. I've published a few of them, but they're very, very popular in engineering and physics, so on and so forth. We publish every book simultaneously in print and online formats. The print versions are now being produced and distributed worldwide by a variety of local printers through new technologies, print-on-demand technologies. The electronic formats are available everywhere, from Amazon to Barnes & Noble to Science Direct. Some have no digital rights management overlay, so you can reproduce them as many times as you like. This is very good for students. Others do have proprietary digital rights management software on them, so you can only download them once. So there are a lot of options here. I should mention that Elsevier has also been at the forefront of investing in ways to make more different kinds of digital content available, so that if you have executable code, for example, that you want to include in your book or your journal article, we can do that. If you want to have a short multimedia presentation of yourself and your co-authors talking about how you came to write a book or a journal, we can do that and make it available at no cost to the readers and researchers. We have a variety of ways that we have invested in what we think the future of scientific publishing will be. So it's been a very exciting company to work for in that way. We have about 25,000 titles available, not only through Science Direct, which is our electronic platform, but through platforms of other more specialized publishers. So publishers or distributors that work only with physicians or healthcare professionals, for example. So part of our work is to make sure that our materials are discoverable, easy to find, and accessible to researchers and students at every price point and in every kind of scholarly situation. Here are some of the imprints that we have under Elsevier. In the top left-hand corner is the Elsevier logo. But we have Woodhead Publishing on the top right, Butterworth Heinemann, Chandos Publishing, Nunes, Academic Press, Morgan Kaufman, Singris. Each of these imprints targets a specific field, discipline, and a specific audience, and is well known to that audience. We protect our imprints. We're very concerned about their reputations. We want to make sure that people have a very clear idea of what kind of book they will get when they buy an academic press book, for example, or a Morgan Kaufman book. So each has a specific market segment that it targets. We have added imprints. We've purchased companies in the last few years. We've also sold off parts of our company because they did not fit with our electronic publishing strategy, for example. So It's a dynamic organization, Elsevier. It's part of an industry that is constantly changing. And if you don't like change at the workplace, then publishing is not for you. But it's been interesting to see how the internet has changed everything in publishing, especially in scientific publishing. And one of our key jobs is to anticipate where it's going to go. 5 years from now, what will our audiences expect to receive from us? So we make a lot of investments in talking to people, in developing different kinds of content, different functionalities that can be applied to and on that basis, it's been a very exciting and interesting way not only to develop content with authors, but to reach and support students and researchers around the world. We have a lot of data from our electronic books. As I mentioned before, we have usage data, we have citation data, we can see how people move from one book to another in terms of their own research. We talk to researchers and learn about what their pain points are. So how they can start with an idea and move it forward a couple of steps, and then they have to make decisions. So we want to partner with researchers and students to help them make decisions and help them work more efficiently. So one of the key words, key concepts that we embrace as a company is efficiency. High quality work and efficient workflows for our students. We have an analytical editorial strategy. So we use data, we use methods to understand how people use their books and build a project on the basis or with the help of data. We identify sources of supply in terms of content and demand for content. And our goal is to attract the best authors and have them work on a project or a table of contents that makes the most sense for their research and for the needs of their readers. Content delivery is another very important part of our editorial strategy, and there are 3 parts of content delivery that I can mention. We have a bibliometrics group in Oxford. Bibliometrics is simply the study of the ways that people use books and quantify. We try to quantify the ways that books are used. Because of our bibliometrics, we have developed updatable reference tools. So for example, many people know about Wikipedia. Wikipedia is an easy, free reference source. And although Wikipedia is very good for some purposes, for example, if you want a fact, you can get it out of Wikipedia very quickly. But Wikipedia articles are notoriously non-authoritative. They're written by who knows who writes them. The articles themselves are not necessarily well balanced or comprehensive. So we want to, we have put a lot of time and effort into developing encyclopedia articles that are balanced, written by authorities, and updatable. And we'll put a date stamp on each encyclopedia article so that you know when how current the data are, or how current the information is. So updatable reference works. We have developed chapter-based publishing programs so that We can publish chapters as soon as they're ready. You don't have to wait for the entire book to be published. The earliest chapters are made available at the outset. And so this is especially popular in fast-moving fields, again, such as physics or chemistry or some of the health professions. Finally, we do a lot of content tagging. One of the key words or the key concepts at Elsevier is discoverability. If you are looking for information, we will show you what else you might be, other articles or other book chapters you might be interested in. So we're able to tag material with taxonomies, put them into a taxonomy, and help you move through current literature or old literature. You can set up variables for your search in any way that you like. So content tagging and indexing, very important part of what we do. We have usage data. So when I publish a book and the book is available for 2 or 3 years, I can go back to my authors and say, here are the ways that people used your book. Here are the most popular chapters. Here are the least popular chapters. And if we're talking about a new edition of the book, that gives the authors a way to understand where the value lies in his or her book. So this has been an excellent tool for planning new projects, as well as keeping older projects alive and vital, and an important part of the scientific research. We build analytical talent. So we are interested in new ways of measuring usage, measuring the impact of our books, and improving those books as we go along. So we start with a strategy that uses data to some extent, and we update our content, as I mentioned, chapter-based publishing, content tagging, and we have 2 other parts of book publishing that are new. One is the way that the content is delivered. This is electronically in a variety of ways, from an entire book to a chapter. We assign what we call a digital object identifier to everything that we publish, so that if you're interested in purchasing a chapter, you can do that using the digital object identifier. If you're interested in purchasing part of a chapter, or a table within that chapter, or a graph within that chapter, each part has a unique identifier that you can use to purchase this. And these digital object identifiers will become far more important in the next few years. You'll see more and more references to them. So we want to be able to provide our customers with just the information they want without burdening them with information that they don't feel is necessary for what they're doing. We have a variety of sales options, as I said. We have perpetual access. That is a one-time fee that gives you access to material. You own the material, and you never have to pay for it again. Other options are what we call Access Plus, which gives you a slice of material. Access itself is another smaller slice of material for a shorter period of time. You can rent material. This is especially good with textbooks. And sometimes the materials are free. We work with open access books and journals around the world. Elsevier has developed a number of open access publications. So these are some of the ways that publishing has changed, and the expectations of our audiences, our buyers, have changed. And we're simply interested in making sure that we're able to fulfill what we want to do in terms of helping scientists. We publish a number of formats, as I mentioned, and in this pyramid you can see the ways that we understand the uses and the longevity of these kinds of publications. At the bottom is major reference works. These are primarily encyclopedias. They are good core fundamental information, especially useful for people who are researching fields that are related to their specialties, so that if you need to understand something, a newly developed field, or something that has a slight relationship to your specialty, you can go to a comprehensive, an encyclopedia, or a foundational introduction. These encyclopedias have been published as 1-volume, 2-volume encyclopedias. I published a 27-volume encyclopedia. They have been aggregated as reference modules so that all of the encyclopedias in a certain area, in fundamental chemistry, for example, have been put together so that you can search across titles and get your hands on authoritative, comprehensive information very quickly. These encyclopedias have long shelf lives, so that is the x-axis. They are all about definitions of fields. Above that, textbooks provide fundamental information with a shorter shelf life for a smaller audience. These are pedagogical examinations or didactic presentations. They oftentimes they have certain earmarks. They have end of chapter questions, for example. They have pedagogical supplements, tests, they have instructors' manuals, they have different kinds of things to help students learn. These are updated on a regular basis, oftentimes. We have textbooks in any number of disciplines, and I have published a number of them in economics and finance. We have different kinds of handbooks above that. These handbooks tend to be literature summaries, so they can help you understand a complex field. And these handbooks are especially good when the writer or the contributor to a handbook is a subject matter expert and can put all of the research that's been done recently into a clear perspective, so that by reading the handbook you can understand different schools of thought and make a prediction about where research is headed. These have been very successful in organizing different disciplines. Economics is a very good example. When we started the handbooks in economics in the mid-1980s, economics was a very broad and unorganized discipline. And the handbooks in economics brought order to the discipline and made the research more accessible to a larger number of people. So for graduate students and professors in particular, they were able to read the handbooks in economics and understand how labor economics was organized, for example, or monetary economics, or international economics. And so these handbooks have been very useful for different audiences, especially upper division undergraduates and graduate students. We also publish a number of monographs and single-volume reference books. These, again, have a narrower audience, an audience that has more specific needs. These books are updated with new editions on a shorter time frame, sometimes 2 or 3 years. They tend to focus, their tables of contents are narrowly focused on specific subjects. Above that, serials are highly cited. They tend to be more like journals in that they take on a specific subject. and they are published on a rapid basis. We have a very famous serial called The Methods in Enzymology. And these are, each volume is like a cookbook. It leads a researcher through a series of steps toward a specific end. So they are often numbered and constantly updated. So, and they start to impinge upon the territory of journals. So you're familiar with journal articles, I'm sure. Journal review articles and journal articles themselves are primary research. So this is what we call cutting-edge new developments in a field, very narrowly prescribed, oftentimes with very short shelf lives. So depending upon the field, journals, articles can be cited sometimes up to 5 or 10 years, but usually not beyond 10 years. Economics, again, is a very good example. Mathematics also, where it takes a long time for a journal article to work its way into the literature and to be cited. So Elsevier is strong in all of these areas, and we see a relationship between every format and part of our job is to lead researchers and others through content tagging from one type of resource to the other, and to help people get a comprehensive view of whatever subject they're researching. Let me talk a little bit about the book publishing cycle. First, are there any questions so far? What Elsevier does as a company, how we perceive the research landscape? Let's talk then about the publishing cycle and what I do for a living. I'm an acquisition editor, and my job is to start with an idea or start with an author, develop that idea, or push the author in a certain direction, and to develop a book. And it has a certain number of clearly defined stages. At the same time, every book author is different, has different needs, different skills. Every book subject has challenges in developing it. Every book usually has competing books. So we want to make sure that our book will outsell the competitors' books. So every project is novel and unique and a challenge in its own way. But I can start at the top with my annual strategy. Every year I develop a strategy plan, and the strategy plan provides a roadmap, if you will, for what I want to accomplish over the year. I take a look, in my portfolio strategy plan at a variety of data sources, and I use a number of contacts that I have throughout the author and editor world, as well as examine what our competitors are doing to come up with a plan. So I evaluate the field, and that evaluation encompasses looking at journal articles. It encompasses looking at conference programs, at census and employment data, higher education data. How many people are receiving degrees in what subjects? I look at research funding. Is funding increasing or decreasing, and where is it going? Who is distributing it? I look at what other book publishers are publishing. Are they publishing a lot of handbooks or just a few handbooks? A lot of textbooks or a few textbooks? And what textbooks, what handbooks, what reference sources are strong? And which ones are weak? Which ones have shortcomings that we can use to publish a better book? We look at our own sales, the sales of our backlist books, and think about how some of these books can be published in new editions. So out of this, I develop a hit list. I publish about 25 books every year, and so I come up with a list of topics, about 25 topics every year that I want to publish in. I look for maturing research or textbooks that are becoming outdated. I look at ideas for books, some of which have identifiable purposes and identifiable audiences. Others have purposes and audiences that need to be developed further. I also look at unsolicited proposals that come across my desk. Sometimes a complete manuscript will come across my desk, unsolicited. I'd never seen it before. And so there are a lot of variables that go into developing a list of books that seem like good investments for Elsevier. I have a large network of journal editors, journal editorial board members, former authors, present authors whom I talk to. I visit campuses and talk to professors in the hallways and in their offices. I go to conferences and I look at conference programs, and I'm able to track the development of certain subjects. So there are a lot of ways that if you have the time and the resources, you can learn quite a bit about a discipline and who the best possible authors might be and where the needs are going to be in the next couple of years. Let me show you a little bit about some of the data that I look at when I develop my strategy plan. This is some information about economics and finance. On the left-hand side, I've picked out 4 major areas, but of course there are far more areas than this. Corporate finance, financial markets, financial institutions and services, and financial economics. I've taken a 4-year period, 2009 to 2013, and in this table I've listed the total number of authors in each of these areas, so you can get a sense of where people see themselves publishing. The supply side of finance, financial academic publishing is very strong. The CAGR, this is the cumulative average growth rate. It's a number that smooths out the peaks and the valleys of growth and gives you a steady number. The number of authors are growing. 11.7% on average in these 4 areas. And it's easy to see that there is tremendous growth in the number of authors in financial markets, a very popular subject, as we've seen in the last week or two. Not so much growth in financial institutions and services, but in financial economics and to a lesser extent in corporate finance, very strong growth everywhere. I can look at the total number of publications. This is book titles and journal articles, and also look at the growth rates over those periods and see that financial institutions and services, although the number of authors are not growing, the total number of publications is high. But growing at a slow rate. So I can make a variety of decisions based upon these kinds of bibliometric data, and I can see where the supply is and where the demand is in all of these areas. And so this can help me in my decision making. I can look at our journal program. Elsevier has the largest journal program in economics and finance. And this little graph just looks at the finance journals. You can see that the x-axis is the impact, the citations of our journals. The y-axis is the rate of growth in our journal articles, and the size of the bubble is the market share that we have. So Elsevier has the largest market share, and it's growing, and it is highly cited. And if you know some of these journals, you'll understand why. The Journal of Financial Economics, top journal in finance. Journal of Banking and Finance and Journal of Monetary Economics are also tops in their fields. Elsevier's 5-year impact, very high, 3.5, almost 3.6. Other journal publishers have a lower impact factor. So we're very fortunate at Elsevier to have a strong journal publishing program. These strengths are mirrored in other disciplines as well. And so we can incorporate these resources into our planning for books. I talked a little bit about the kinds of publishing content, and you can see here that not only do we have handbooks, monographs, textbooks, and others, but we pay attention to other ways that research becomes available, becomes public and disseminated. So blogs and tweets, conference papers, and so on, journal articles. These are all sources that we want to take a look at and make sure that everything is incorporated into our planning. So we often we publish a lot of books, and we believe that books have a very important role in research and in science in general. 92% of researchers say that they regularly take a look at other disciplines. This is becoming increasingly evident, as sure as you know, not only in economics, but in other fields as well. So making this fundamental knowledge, usually found in books, available is our mission. And you can see that in the 4 bar graphs on top, a lot of people use journals to add currency from the field. They look at quickly developing areas. But in every other part of research, fundamental knowledge, the effort to learn about different methodologies from other disciplines and apply them to your own, or your efforts to broaden your perspectives, understand more about what kinds of issues there are and solutions to them. Books are very important. We took a look at, we talked to 500 researchers and librarians, and these were their the results. So we want to make sure that we understand where people are going and what they want. So about 72% of the time, people use books to gain fundamental knowledge. And this helps us define our role with all of our books. Many people are interested in writing books, and they have some reasons for, some common reasons for writing books. And I've listed 4 of them here, although you probably know of more yourself. Oftentimes, people will write a book to push their own career forward, to increase their reputation. And I've worked with a number of authors whom I did not know at the outset. They wrote a book, the book did very well, and other opportunities come to them. So they become, in the eyes of their colleagues, acknowledged experts in a field. So advancing your reputation is clearly one reason to write a book. All of our book authors, I think, to the person, are passionate about their interests. They are driven to disseminate knowledge that they have worked very hard to develop. And so we see one of our roles as expanding, as giving them a soapbox, if you will, giving them a platform from which to educate others about their work. So advancing their own interest and passion is clearly a good reason to write a book. Most of our authors are educators. They're either professors or they're professionals who teach part-time, or they see themselves, even if they are not connected with a university or a college, as an educator of some sort. And so every author, I think, feels a need to provide materials to others who want to learn about their subjects. So education is a very strong motivator for writing a book. And finally, and sometimes most interestingly, there's a need in the market. There is a gap for one or more reasons. Either it's a new subject that needs a book written about it, or the books that are available are inadequate for whatever reason. They're outdated, or they are, or they're missing something. So understanding the competitors is a very important part of what we do. And there is a fifth reason, of course, and that fifth reason is that the book is going to outlast you. The book will still be around after you retire from your career or you do something different. That book is going to remain available. And so this is also oftentimes a motivating reason for people to sit down and write that book, or contribute to a handbook if they don't want to write a book all by themselves or with a collaborator. To author or to edit? This gets to the question of how you see yourself writing a book. Sometimes, as I said, in an authored book, a textbook, for example, or a monograph, there can be more than one author. And this kind of collaboration can be very good, especially if your co-author has strengths that complement your own. And so you can write a book that covers far more information and is useful to a larger audience than you could do on your own. This kind of collaboration most often seen in textbooks or in foundational content, as encyclopedias, for example, or in handbooks, or in professional books. Our handbooks, for example, have volume editor or editors. I think each one has at least 2 editors. And their job is to find the best possible contributors. So each editor, volume editor, knows a slice of a field and tries to bring on the best possible contributors. So there are a lot of ways that we can make an author team, put an author team together, and make it work with the content. Edited books, as I said, some of the handbooks, we have collections of chapters on specific subjects. These people are usually authorities in their fields. They are coordinated by a volume editor, who plans the table of contents and who is able to recruit and manage these authors. So sometimes these volume editors contribute a chapter or 2. And we come up with a book that is really at the top of the field. We see this oftentimes when we look at handbooks published by other publishers. They have editors or authors who are not the acknowledged experts. And although their books can be good, they are not as good as ours. And this is a constant challenge for us to perform at our top level. We have editors-in-chief for multi-volume encyclopedias. The 27-volume encyclopedia that I recently published had one man at the very top who has excellent social skills and organizational skills, and he was able to bring in a large editorial board and manage them, who then in turn managed the contributors. So that kind of top-down management for a large book project can be very strong, very successful in the end. Once I set a strategy, I take a look at book proposals and work with authors and learn something about the field itself. So I have my own book proposal form. Other acquisition editors have their own book proposal forms, but oftentimes these forms have a number of common subjects that they include. Obviously, a tentative table of contents. It's important at the outset to identify the subjects that will be included as well as the subjects that will be excluded from the book. I want to know something about the author himself or herself. Why is that author the best person to write on these subjects? And so if I can put the subjects and the author together, this can be a winning combination. The author is the subject expert, as I said, and I'm the publishing expert. And I want to make sure that I get along with the author and that each of us is working at our best to make the best possible book. I want to know about the features of the book. Will it have pedagogical supplements, for example? Will it have end of chapter questions? Will it have multimedia attached to it? Will it have an instructor's manual? So at the outset of the project, we want to try to define what features go along with the book. One of the very important questions that we ask, of course, is who is the audience? Can we define the audience? Can we say that we have a primary audience and then a secondary audience? We can't say that everybody in the world is going to be interested in your book because it's simply not the case. But if we can understand who the audience is and what needs or what problems that audience has that the book will solve or help them solve, this is a tremendous part of the book development project. Who's the audience? How will the reader use your book to solve his or her own problems? Whether they be informational problems, workflow problems, or problems in coordinating different subjects. So the benefits to the audience is a very important part, as well as knowing the competition. People go to a variety of information sources to find relevant information. Sometimes these information sources are freely available on the internet. Sometimes there are other books. Sometimes they are pieces of books, sections of 2 or 3 books. And so we want to understand what those information sources are, and as I said, why our book is going to be better than they are. Is our book a one-stop shop where people can just use our book to solve their problems? Can it project them into other informational sources? How does our book compare with the competition? I oftentimes work with authors and editors for some time to develop a prospectus, a 3 or 4 page description of the project. And I want this prospectus to be as strong as possible. And when it is, when we get to a point where we're happy, I'm happy, the author is happy, we send it out to get peer reviewed. And so I will talk to a large handful of people, sometimes 4 or 5, sometimes 10 to 15, who represent different slices of the reader population from around the world. Some of these are professionals, some are students, some are professors. I want to get a very clear understanding of how the audience perceives this project, and oftentimes this is eye-opening in some of these insights. We learn about the assumptions that a reader brings to a book. We learn about their expectations for the book. And if the book does not meet those assumptions and expectations, then we need to make sure that we incorporate those parts into the table of contents or into the approach of the author to the subject. So I share anonymous versions of these reviews with the author or the editor. And I ask the author or editor to respond formally to these reviews. I usually focus that conversation around 3 or 4 major questions. And I give the author a chance to consider everything and to respond. The best authors will understand that these reviewers' comments really need to be incorporated. Things really do need to be modified, and those modifications will build a better book. Writing a book is not necessarily intuitive. It takes a lot of work understanding what people want to find in it. So this can be a very constructive process, and I always use it as such. We always learn something. Oftentimes, what we learn not only finds its way into the table of contents, but ultimately results in very clear language that the sales representatives and the marketing people can use. So we build a project by articulating its various aspects and putting that into not only an intellectual plan, but also a business plan, a commercial plan, so that we're able to put the right amount of investment behind it, the right amount of time and effort from not only me and my assistants, but the production people and so on and so forth. So we all learn a lot about the project through this peer review and revision process. Here are some of the other aspects of a book proposal that provide a clear idea, an articulated idea of what we want to achieve. A working title. A title is not necessarily an easy phrase to develop because people search electronically for material. A working title needs to include relevant keywords. So it needs to be optimized to search engine, what your readers expect to find in your book. So it has the fewest possible words. Doesn't need to be long, but it does need to be clear and precise. It needs to describe all of the content, not just part of it, and what the main issue is. We try to keep abbreviations out of these titles. I want to incorporate into the book proposal a few sentences about the author or the editor. What qualifications does he or she have to write this book? So again, authoritative. This is the name of the game. A list of the contributors, if they're available. Oftentimes people say that a handbook or an encyclopedia will be only as strong as its contributors. And so if we know something about the contributors, where they come from, what authority they bring to the project, this can be a big selling point. And it's a good leading indicator of the quality of the book itself. Some other aspects, I think I've talked about some of these. A lay definition, a common definition of the book that everybody can understand, whether you are an expert in the subject or not. Our sales representatives and marketing people are not necessarily experts in economics and finance, for example, or in analytical chemistry or in fundamental neuroscience. So giving our staff a way to talk about the book is very important. A purpose, what is the aim of the book? What's its mission? What is the scope of the material? Again, what does it include? What does it exclude? So that we have a good idea about how the book fits into the larger discipline, whatever it happens to be. Some of the features of the book, as I said, pedagogical features, multimedia features. For computer books, does it have executable code in it? If it's a life science book, does it have photomicrographs? And are they high resolution or low resolution, or both? Something about these features can make the book far more appealing at the outset and really give people an idea of what we are setting out to achieve. Some of the background. Why are we writing the book in the first place? How has the discipline changed to reach a point where we need a new book on this subject? Oftentimes this is only 2 or 3 sentences, but it sets up the problem or the issue that the book is going to address and provides a good general description or a background description that make the book relevant. And finally, some of the benefits. That is, how is the book going to help the audience? What problems do readers have that the book is going to help them solve? Or what is the book going to confer upon them? In finance, finance is a very good subject because a lot of finance courses are really pre-professional training. Finance graduates go on to work for an investment house or an insurance company or financial business in general. And so what are the benefits that this book is going to give to the reader that will help him or her progress in their career more quickly? Give them a higher salary at the outset. So this is the kind of thing that is very important. Some of the other parts, I think I've talked a little bit about these. What's the table of contents? It doesn't need to be final at the proposal stage, but it does need to be shaped in a certain way, because during the peer review process, the reviewers will recognize what the table of contents is trying to achieve. There's a timeline. Oftentimes, people will want to take a lot of time to write a book. Other people want to take just a little bit of time to write a book. Our usual standard is 2 years. We say that most people should be able to write a book from starting when we sign a contract, then 2 years until we receive a final manuscript. Some people can do it more quickly. Some people take longer. But we need to have a timeline to start with. Along with that timeline, some of the specifications of the book. How many words is it going to be? How many chapters? Are there going to be illustrations? If so, are they going to be in color, black and white? Is the author going to provide the illustrations, or do we need to redraw things to make them available, to make them work in a book format? Are there ancillary materials? Are there materials that are copyrighted that need to be licensed to incorporate into the book? So as much information at the outset that we can get, then the better idea we have about costs and the timeline and how many people we are going to need to bring to this project. Sometimes if people have a list of potential reviewers, or more oftentimes if there are people that they don't want to review their prospectus, this can be useful as well. Oftentimes there are other competitors out there we don't want to give our information to at this point in the at this stage in the development of the project. So any information that a potential author can bring to the proposal can be very good, very useful. Will your proposal be accepted? For a good author, a strong author, and a strong acquisitions editor, the answer is probably going to be yes. The acquisition editor is a coach, if you will, and the author is the athlete. So the coach helps the athlete prepare for the competition and has the athlete move to a position where he or she is able to succeed. And that's what a good acquisition editor does as well. So your proposal will probably be accepted if you have a good idea who the audience is, the audience's needs. You've demonstrated a need in the marketplace. You have a realistic description of your readers and what their expectations are, what their assumptions are. We have reviews that are strong, and the author or editor is able to incorporate the reviewer's ideas into his or her project so that it's a stronger project because of that help from anonymous reviewers. If the material is incomplete, if there is confusion about what readers want, or it's just not very clear, if the book doesn't offer anything new, or if the reviewers are only lukewarm about the project, then it's probably not a good investment for us, and it's probably not a good investment for the author or the editor. He or she would be advised to use his or her time and energy to greater effect. So this part of book publishing can be very messy. It can take a long time. There is no clear path through it necessarily, but it can be very constructive as the publishing process proceeds. Things become more regimented and more run by a schedule. But this part is interesting, and as I said, can take a long time, can be a little messy, go back and forth a number of times until everybody's happy with the results. I find it the most interesting part of the entire process. The next general stage, the approval and the issuing a contract. So once I have a project that makes sense, I have good reviews, I have a business plan, a financial plan for the project. I know about how much we want to offer the book for, what the price is going to be, how many copies we'll sell over a 5-year period, and what our profit margin is going to be. I put all of this together into a plan and give it to my colleagues. My colleagues are from marketing, from sales, from finance. They look at the entire portfolio of books and journals that we publish and make sure that everything fits together. And if it does, and it usually does, then at this point, then we issue a contract. And the contracts have certain specifications. Usually these specifications are familiar to the author or the editor when he or she receives the contract, because we've talked about them already. But it will have a manuscript due date. It will have an extent, that is the number of words that are going to be in the book, because oftentimes people can write far more than they expect to write. It will have some mention of ancillary materials. If the book is going to include PowerPoint slides, for example, or licensed material, or electronic materials, we want to make sure that our contracts cover those. We now use a online contract manager called DocuSign to circulate the contract. So people receive the contract over the internet immediately. They can read it through, ask questions. We can modify the contract if that's necessary, and they can sign it electronically. So we don't put a stack of contracts into the mail and you receive them and sign them with a pen anymore. This is far more efficient as far as we're concerned, and you receive a completely signed copy of the contract at the end. So it seems to work well for everybody. What else did I want to mention? That can be a very quick process, I should say. The entire process from once the proposal is ready, having it reviewed, getting the author or editor to respond to the reviewers, and proposing it for a contract takes about 4 to 5 weeks. So once we have a project, things can progress very quickly. And of course, we want to sign up those authors as quickly as we can, and they can start writing the book. There are, when we issue a contract, there are multiple levels of approval. As I mentioned, my colleagues want to take a look at everything and make sure that everything is in place. The contract includes some of the terms, such as the delivery date, the royalty rate, and certain specifications. I should mention that all of our book authors and editors are paid royalties on the basis of sales. We do not ask anybody, any author or editor, to buy a certain number of copies of their book, as other publishers sometimes do. Everything is oriented toward making the book as successful as possible commercially, selling as many copies as possible, and making sure that the author or editor shares in that financial success. And as I said before, we want to make sure that the best authors and editors come back to us and write another book for us. So some books have been very successful financially, and the authors or editors receive very nice checks once a year from us. So it's an exciting and gratifying process to be part of that way. We circulate the contract by DocuSign. It's signed and countersigned, and the development of the manuscript begins. Once we sign a contract, then I have an assistant. All of my peers have assistants called editorial project managers. And the job of those editorial project managers is to stay in touch with the author or the editor throughout the writing process, and to make sure that they have all the materials they need to do the best possible job. So oftentimes there are a variety of different elements that come into writing a book. There are reviews, there are revisions of the manuscript, there are discussions that take place, there are outlines that need to be written and revised, and finally a lot of writing that needs to take place. Oftentimes each of these parts of the manuscript development, composition process requires some assistance from us. I have oftentimes worked with authors to have their drafts reviewed and to help them that way. We help authors develop tables and graphs, photographs, images of different kinds. These need to be of publishable quality. So we can get samples from our authors and have our production staff take a look at them and make suggestions if necessary. There are of all sorts of problems, potential problems, especially with electronic publishing, that we can anticipate and help you solve before they become problems. So anyway, we have these editorial project managers, and they will provide guidelines, style sheets, if you will, to help you make sure that everything is complete and in order. We work with sample chapters and assess those chapters so that we are prepared for the final manuscript, and you're not surprised when we ask for certain things or prepared in a certain way. We talk about the front matter and the back matter. The front matter is the table of contents, the copyright page, any other material such as a foreword or a preface that comes before chapter 1. The back matter is the index, primarily. We most often, only with a rare exception, do we ask an author to prepare an index. So we prepare and we pay for the index, but we want to make sure that the work that we do matches your specifications, so we'll talk about it beforehand. There are keywords and abstracts. Every chapter that we publish now has keywords and a short abstract, a short summary, 100 words or so. The keywords and the abstracts are vital for electronic books, e-books, because these are the materials that the search engines look at and help people find your chapter. We are in a position, we haven't done it quite yet, but we probably will in 2016, begin selling individual chapters. So you don't buy the book, you can just buy a chapter or a couple of chapters. And the way that people will find your chapter is through the keywords and the abstracts. So this is an important part of our work, and the editorial project manager is responsible for making sure that the keywords and the abstracts are complete and adequately describe the content in the chapters. We want to make sure that we have a complete list of contributors, if there are contributors, with their affiliations. They need to sign an agreement, a letter of agreement at the outset that gives us the rights to publish their work. So there are a number of steps that we need to take with contributors to make sure that we have complete information and we can include their material in the book without any problems. We talk about the ways that the contributors and the authors and editors deliver material to us. These days we use a website, and the authors upload their materials to the website, and the editorial project manager aggregates their materials and checks them, makes sure that everything is in order. So the figures are delivered separately, coded separately from the manuscript, as well as the captions delivered separately, so that we can put everything together without any problems and check to make sure that everything is right and we can move quickly through the production process. There are author marketing questionnaires. The author and the editor know the subject very well. They have the best idea about where the audience can be found. Are there conferences, for example, where they want their book? We want to know about that at the outset, the location of the conference and its date, so that we can make sure that copies of the book are there. There are other pieces of information, marketing information, that can be very important to a book and make sure that the author or the editor can fulfill his or her professional obligations. If there are copies that need to go to his or her colleagues, or they need to pay certain debts for professional debts or professional obligations. We want to know about that at the outset so that we can help them. We want to talk about the cover design, the cover images. Oftentimes our authors are excellent with the interior material, but they're not graphic designers. They don't know what a good book cover is all about. There are really two criteria we use these days to think about book covers. First, you need to be able to recognize a book cover in a very small format. If you think about Amazon and the size of the image that you see on Amazon of every book cover, the book cover design needs to convey its ideas in a small format. And oftentimes the book cover needs to distinguish your book from its competitors. There are a lot of finance books, for example, that have pictures of banks on the front, or they have a dollar sign on the front, or another notation from the banking or the finance industry. So we don't want our books to look like everybody else's books. They need to be distinctive. Back cover copy, again, we always have pre-publication endorsements that we put on a book. Where do those endorsements come from? We want the most recognizable experts endorsing the book before it's published. So these are also other considerations that we talk through with the authors and the editors and make sure that we get everything right. We want to know about the delivery date because, as I said, it becomes a very regimented process once the manuscript is written. Our salespeople, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, they want to know about the book about 9 months before it's published. So they want to start selling the book before it's available and get advance orders in. So it becomes important to work with the author. We have to set a publication date and then to make sure that we meet that date. If we don't meet that date, the book slips into the next month or a couple of months into the future, then we lose those advance orders. And those advance orders might come back, but they might not come back. So there is a certain set of obligations as the process continues that we need to keep track of and do our best to fulfill. We always work with authors and editors on equations and references and figures and tables. For the more mathematical books, we ask that they use math type or other very common math programs. These are preferred, they're easy to work with. We can use them without retypesetting them. And so we keep the mistakes that can be introduced to a minimum. We have certain reference styles. They're very familiar reference styles, but we need to make sure that they're consistent throughout the book. Our copy editors always look at the references. The copy editors always check to make sure that the book is cross-referenced correctly. But oftentimes authors can do a lot of this through online materials, online tools. Photographs, line drawings, and images we think of as figures. And we want them to be original, if possible. This is the best possible situation for us. Each one needs to be numbered and referred to in a consistent manner. We need to put together a list of the artwork, and my assistant does that so that we know where everything goes. Because when the pages are typeset, we need to make sure that we have sufficient space on each page for the figures. Sometimes figures need to be redrawn, and we can do that, but we would like to know about it as early as possible because we want to work with the author to make sure that the figures meet their specifications. References are oftentimes an interesting a side part of writing a book because we don't want people to use too many references, just enough to make sure that their content is clear. We want to make sure that the author understands what the references are. This might seem like a funny statement to make, but sometimes they're not entirely clear why they're including a reference. Oftentimes authors like to cite themselves, and we want to keep those self-citations to a minimum. We'd like to see a lot of diversity in the publications that they cite. And this is to make sure that we get the broadest possible distribution of the material across different disciplines. And finally, of course, we have style sheets for references. They're very easy to follow. The copy editors will make sure that the references conform to the style sheets. So it's not a big deal, but it does. We need to make sure that this is included in the writing process. Writing a book is hard work. There's nothing clearer or more true than that. And so there are a number of ways that we can help. We bought a company 2 years ago called Mendeley. Mendeley was a very interesting small startup company that as a reference manager provides an academic social network. And so you can work with the Mendeley site to help you organize your references, and you can correspond with other people you might not have ever heard of who are also familiar with these references, and expand your own horizons, expand your network that way. It's really a wonderful group. The staff at Mendeley have a lot of good ideas, and they're really growing their own little business within Elsevier. So you can securely share papers, you can annotate and share notes and other information, and you can identify potential collaborators if you're not already familiar with them. So another way to increase the breadth of what you're doing, the accuracy and the quality of what you are writing. This is one of our favorite authors, George Paxinos, who has written a series of books, atlases about the rat brain. And as you can see, this photograph was taken at a recent neuroscience conference. He has admirers from all over the world, and he's really a star when he comes, and the people just gravitate toward him and have him sign copies of this rat brain atlas. Additional deliverables, this is front matter material, dedication, acknowledgments. We need them when we go to production. A foreword is oftentimes written by somebody who's not a contributor, who's not an author or an editor, and provides a general context for your book, puts it into a larger context. The foreword needs to be finished and delivered on time with the other materials for your book. A preface or an introduction, this can be written by the author or editor, but it usually summarizes the book and provides readers with expectations about what they can get from the book itself. A glossary, often a very important part. A nomenclature list, a list of symbols and their meanings. Appendices. Oftentimes this is some of the most interesting and exciting material in a book, especially for advanced readers. So the appendices, their internet addresses, if they're available. Ancillary materials, websites. Oftentimes most of my finance books have websites. We want to be the host of the website so that we ensure that it's always available. Authors can update their websites on a regular basis. It's a very easy process, and we can use these websites as ways to bring people into or educate people about the book. So websites can either be freely available or they can be password protected. The freely available websites are usually data sets that are common or that nobody minds if they're freely available. They can be pedagogical material, supplementary material in one way or another. A password-protected website is usually an instructor's manual or answers to questions that are asked at the end of a chapter. The sales representatives distribute the passwords to the password-protected websites so that we have some assurance that students don't have access to these materials. What else? I mentioned the abstracts that and the keywords that come at the beginning of each chapter, and we want these to be interesting and brief because these materials are the first materials that researchers see about your book, and they bring people to the book itself. But the other thing I wanted to say is that our book authors and editors are often the best sales representatives that we have for their own books. So we want to make sure that you're able to advertise your book chapter and your book. Oftentimes the chapter summaries are excellent materials for you to take and give to your colleagues or potential adopters if it's a textbook, and have them buy copies of the book. So the abstracts need to be interesting, understandable, brief, about 100 words. And you'll see that once your book is published, this material finds its way into all sorts of internet searches, internet results. Keywords label the manuscript. They are used, as I said, by indexing and abstracting. We call them A and I services. And they really depend upon established standards. So every discipline is slightly different. Here's an example, reflexive cartography. And some of the keywords are not necessarily identifiable to the layperson, but to an expert, these all mean something. And so choosing the right keywords can be sometimes a time-consuming process, but very important to make sure that all of the work that you did in writing the book gets properly focused and is discoverable to your potential buyers. And finally, I want to talk a little bit about the global distribution, sales, and marketing of your book. So if there are two keywords that we think about in publishing, one is discoverability. People can find your book. And the other is accessibility, so that people can get a copy of your book. We think of accessibility and discoverability, first of all, with production. So once you finish the manuscript and upload it to one of our sites, and the editorial project manager has an opportunity to work with you to make sure that every piece is there and is in the best possible shape, he or she turns it over to the production manager. The production manager, we have production facilities in Oxford and in Chennai, India. And they do different kinds of books in each location. The production manager has a formal meeting with us, with the editorial part, to make sure that everybody understands what the book is all about and what all of its pieces are and how they all fit together. Production manager issues a production timetable, a production schedule. And at this point, the process becomes very regimented and quite predictable. And the production manager can really turn up the heat to make sure that everybody sticks with the schedule. But the production work really begins with copy editing. So somebody will go through every sentence that you write and make sure that it is complete, makes sense. If there are questions that need to be answered, the copy editor will make sure to pose those questions and then give the author or editor an opportunity to answer the questions. So at this stage, we want to make sure that we have everything just the way that it should be at the end of this stage. Once the copy editing is finished, we move to typesetting. So we take the manuscript and the copy edits, we put the copy edits into the manuscript, and we set the manuscript into pages, and we paginate all of them so that we can start to do the indexing. Once the manuscript is put into typeset pages, we want to make very few corrections, only minor corrections so that we don't upset the pagination. It becomes very costly at that point to repaginate the entire book if that's what needs to be done. The author and editor read the proofs, read the typeset pages, make sure they're correct. We can make changes if necessary. This is all done electronically through PDFs these days. And it will be done according to a schedule. So we will notify you well in advance when you can expect to see the typeset pages. You can make your plans around that, usually a 2-week period, and fulfill your proofreading obligations at that point. At the same time, the indexing goes on, and we'll take care of that. And so we get to the point where we have the typeset pages, we have the figures, we have the front matter, the back matter, the index is all done, and we can go to manufacturing. That takes about 2 months, I should say, when we're ready to go to manufacturing. Sometimes manuscripts are more complex than others. They have mathematics, a lot of equations in them that take a lot of time to make sure they're accurate. They have problematic figures that need to be dealt with at different stages of the production process. But in general, the time period from finishing a manuscript and submitting it to the bound book is about 6 months, 6 to 7 months. We produce both print and electronic files simultaneously. The electronic version of the book is oftentimes published first. And so it's made available it's coded in XML, and then we distribute it to Amazon, we distribute it to Barnes & Noble, any other retailers who will have an interest in it. Sometimes they put their digital rights management software on top of these XML files. Other times they don't. We will upload it to Science Direct. If there are chapters that can be uploaded that are finished, we can upload them one at a time over a period of weeks until the final complete book is available. We have changed our print process in the last year. We no longer print all of our books in 2 locations, one in the Americas and one in Europe, and have 2 separate warehouses. But instead we use print-on-demand technologies so that a local printer, according to our specifications, can create, print, and bind a certain number of books for local distribution. And so this is a far more efficient way to handle a print product. We don't have the costs of shipping books all over the world. If there's a flood in a warehouse and we lose all of our stock, then we don't have to reprint it anymore. So this has been very successful so far, and I think we'll see more of it in the future. Science Direct is our large electronic pipeline. It is available in many, I would say most institutions of higher education worldwide. Science Direct has a tremendous amount of information on it, from journals to books. We have 33,000 ebooks on Science Direct, for example, and over 14,000 encyclopedia articles. So we have a lot of information that goes through Science Direct. All of it is searchable on Science Direct, and so it's a good bet that if when your book is published, it is immediately available to researchers all over the world through their institution's Science Direct subscription. And so that is really a fantastic advance in disseminating material around the world. We also promote our books and journals in the more traditional ways: conferences, newsletters. There are databases created by these abstracting and indexing companies. We have press releases. We use social media increasingly. We have what we call 3 PPs. These are platform partnerships. They're small companies that are focused on specific disciplines, and they are aggregators, so they'll take some of our titles, some titles published by our competing publishing companies, and they'll put them all together for their buyers. So there are a lot of ways: email alerts, book awards. We're very aggressive in terms of promoting our books through award-giving committees. We have won a lot of awards. We also have very aggressive and successful foreign language licensing group that is based in Beijing. They look at every new title and assess it and try to interest foreign language publishers in it. Foreign language publishers, if we sign an agreement with them, the foreign language publishers are responsible for translating the book and publishing it for their markets. They pay us a royalty, and we turn around and pay that royalty to you. So we have seen some tremendous responses from Chinese language buyers, for example. But we work with 30 to 40 different languages through a wide network of foreign language publishers. So there are a lot of ways to promote your book to its audiences, both the audiences we know and the audiences who are developing, whom we don't necessarily know. So it's a very exciting and interesting industry to be part of. Here are a list of links that you might find useful if you are thinking about writing a book or editing a book. There are all sorts of resources in terms of direction and help. I also can provide a list of people within Elsevier who are my peers who can work with you in different disciplines. So there are a lot of avenues for approaching book writing and book editing, and we are really the premier book publisher around the world using a bibliometrics or a data-driven way to acquire and develop our material. And we have seen the results in terms of awards and in sales and in citations of everybody's good work. So Are there any questions that I can answer about this? It's a lot of material. Okay.
You hear me?
Yes.
My name is Jürgen Ableiter. I'm working at the University of Lima, Mexico. And my first question is, where can we find your presentation? Is it possible to see online? Or?
Yes, the presentation will be distributed, and I'm not sure how exactly, but my colleague knows, and she's going to walk up here and tell us.
Buenas tardes. A las personas que se registraron, les vamos a mandar por correo una constancia de asistencia y la presentación. En caso de las personas que están remotas, sería importante que nos mandaran a mi correo, que es c.tostado@elsevier.com, su correo para que nosotros hagamos llegar la presentación. Entonces, si quiere, le pongo aquí el correo al que me manden, por favor. No,
I have a second question.
Go ahead.
Is it possible to publish in another language, not in English? In German, for example?
No, we are only an English language publisher, but we do, as I said, work with foreign language publishers, non-English language publishers. So.
¿Sí escuchó?
Thank you.
Ahí está el correo para que por favor en ese correo, si ustedes me escriben, yo les mando con mucho gusto la presentación.
Just one more question. You said you are working now on print on demand, correct?
Correct, yes.
Your books are print on demand.
Yes. I would say 98% of our books are print on demand. The books that are not print on demand are very specialized books, such as the Rat Brain Atlas book, which is a large format book and includes high resolution images. So we can publish that kind of material successfully in an electronic format, but we need the lithography to use in printing. So at this point, they do not lend themselves to print-on-demand technology.
Si no hay otra pregunta más, les agradecemos su presencia. Estamos a sus órdenes. En este correo yo también puedo hacerle llegar a Scott sus preguntas. Y bueno, pues una vez más agradecemos al Colegio de México por ser nuestros anfitriones en este evento, que es un esfuerzo que hace Elsevier por compartir pues, las buenas prácticas en cuanto a la parte editorial se refiere.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.